fixing eye color. So I want to talk about that and how we can do that. So currently I have blue eyes here. I'll isolate this so you can see what I mean. Kind of bluish green eyes, mostly blue. But yeah, there it is. So so I need to get this changed to a brown eye. And what's the easiest way to do that? Well, what I need to do is get the texture out first. So is this a texture map or is it poly painting? If we open up texture map in our tool palette, we can see it's not a texture map. So it's got to be poly painting. And we can also see this because if we turn the colorize on and off, we're going to tell, okay, yeah, that's very much poly painting. We can convert our poly painting into a texture, which is what we're going to do. So we can, under texture map, say create new from poly paint. But you're going to see that this is grayed out. So that's not going to work, at least not at the moment. We need some kind of UVs for this. So how do we create UVs that make sense for this eyeball? Well, first, we should probably make some polygroups. And the way we do that, in this case, is to sort of cut this down the middle. Turn perspective off. That's the P button. Make sure it's off. Go to the lowest subdivision level by hitting Shift D, or if you need to reconstruct under geometry, we can reconstruct to lower levels. That's fine. All of the color data and the sculpting is still intact. If I hit the D button, each time I hit the D button or divide, it's going to go up one subdivision. Shift D is going to go down, as you can see, and D is going to go up, right? So at the moment, we have a lower subdivision of only 4,000. And if I hit the D button, then that's going to be 16,000, so always times 4. And yeah, we can make some UVs, and the way we do this, go to the side of the eyeball, or try to rotate the eyeball so you just see the side. Hold down Control, then switch to Mask Rectangle. Use Mask Rectangle to go halfway down the eyeball, actually a little bit past the halfway mark. Then from here, hit Control W, and you should see when I hit Shift F for wireframe, I have two different polygroups. It's a little hard to tell because they're both pretty green, but I can hit, whoops, I can, there we go, hit Control W again until I get a different color. So now you can really see the two polygroups. Now from here, I can create UVs at the lowest subdivision under Z plugin, UV master. Instead of using symmetry, turn on polygroups. That way each polygroup will be a different UV shell. Click unwrap. Now from here, we could click flatten. That's one way to do it. It should work, but in this case it wants to work on a clone, and really that's not my favorite way to look at my UVs or flatten out. To see the UVs, it's a little bit buggy. I prefer to go over here to texture map, new from UV check. And that to me is a better way to see my UVs. I really don't like where the seam is here, going down the middle of my eyeball. It's not really great, but I don't know how easy this would be to fix. I mean, the fix seam button here isn't really going to do what I want it to do, which is to sew it back together. We would like to have kind of two circular things. Obviously, the upper left is not really circular like the lower right is, so it's not good. But it can still be used. We can still use it. We can still do it. So, all right, let's just send this out as a texture. Hit the D button to go back to the highest level. Just tap that D button a few times until you're up at the highest level. So in this case, it's going to be about 1 million, a little over 1 million. And at the highest level, we want to click Create New from Poly Paint. And that gives me my, my eyeball texture. So now, click Clone Texture. That puts it in the texture palette. Click Export. And now we have a texture that we can modify. Again, I'd prefer this to be 2 perfect UV circles, but we can still use this. Normally I don't like the seam to go through the middle of something if I can avoid it, so it's kind of not the best UV unwrapping. I prefer to do this in Maya where I have a little more control over my UVs, but it'll work for what I'm trying to do for this demonstration. We're trying to change the blue eye into brown eye, right? Go back into Photoshop now, open up your eye texture that you just created. This should just be an image. And I mean, export it if you haven't already. I think I just did. Should be okay. Oh, there it is. Eye texture. Now, this blue area, we've got to make brown. So that's just the real question. How do we do that? Go back and find some kind of sample of a brown eye, preferably a relatively nice close-up. Get that image. Copy it. And by the way, it doesn't have to be large resolution. That's not necessary. Paste it into Photoshop. And again, it's not necessary. In fact, just want to say that you're only looking for a small swatch of this. You can go to your lasso, Shift, it's L for lasso, Shift L to get to the polygonal lasso. And really, you know, you actually don't want all of this eyeball. You certainly don't want like the reflection, the skin color stuff. We just want the brown color. We don't even need all of it. We just need a good chunk of it, really. This is going to be our color sample that we use to match. I can hit Command C or Control C for copy, Control N for new, Control V for paste. And actually, when you do this, make sure it's on a transparent background. We don't want white here at all. So let's paste it and get rid of the white background. The white will interfere with this process. So here's our color sample. You can see it's just got the brown and black of the eye. That's it. Now, whoops, where do we go? Oh, here it is. So now the next step here is to change this blue area. You can hit Control J to duplicate just for safety purposes. And then use a marquee, M for marquee, Shift M to make a kind of a circular marquee here. Like, do your best to just kind of use the circular marquee to go around, you know, the blue part of the eye. This is a bit of a tricky part here. And you're going to see there's all this I didn't really do a great job on. So, yeah. How do I fix this? So, well, one way to do this would be color select. I feel like if we're painting our selection, you could hit the Q button. That takes us into quick mask mode. And if you have a brush here, B for brush, and you're sticking with black and white, for example. In other words, I have black and white over here. The shortcut for that is D for default color or default black and white. So if we do something like that, I know this seems really weird, but you're actually painting the selection right now. And you're not going to see that until you click the Q button again. Right? So if I click the Q button again, you're going to see, oh, that really is painting the selection. So that's one way to do it. And if you have a tablet, then it works very well. I'm not doing the best job here because, well, I don't have a tablet. It should. So this is one way to do it. This is a little time consuming. So let me talk to you about another way. Another way to do it is just to use W for quick select and just simply use your quick select and drag around it. Whoops, Control D to deselect. Come on. Oops, Photoshop suddenly decides to go crazy for some reason. Having some trouble with Photoshop lately for some reason. Doesn't really help for a demo. Oh, there we go. Nope. Stop. Okay. So as I was saying, use your quick select. That should be the W key again, but Shift W until you actually get to quick select. This allows me to quickly select the color. See, that's much, much faster. So I should have just done that all along. Would have been easier, right? All right. Sorry. There's multiple ways to do things. So Control C, Control Shift V. That should put this blue area just on top and in the exact same place, right? So exactly the same place. Now, this is the layer we're going to change. If you want to isolate or just turn off the other layers, that's fine. Just as long as you have this, we can turn this to brown. We can actually match this to the other brown that we've created. What's the name of that document, right? So we have to go and find the name of that document. Well, in my case, it's Untitled 3. Yeah, Untitled 3. So not particularly great name, but as long as you know what it is. So Untitled 3. Then go back to the layer I'm working on, layer 2 here. And as long as you can remember Untitled 3, we now can use under Image Adjustment, Match Color. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to use another algorithm, use a Photoshop tool here to match this blue to the brown. All we have to do is change the source to be Untitled 3. And bam, there it is. You can see it's turned brown. Now, you should probably tweak this a little bit because obviously we don't have exactly the same. This seems a little bit weirdly orange and blown out. You can use fade to fade between them, but again, that's not probably what you're looking for. You don't want to split the difference. But you could, tweak the color intensity a little bit by lowering it. So it's not quite so overly saturated. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. So the color intensity in this case is what I think what was really blowing it out. Yep, that's why we're getting these really weird blown out colors. So by pulling down my color intensity way down, all the way to 1 really, then I'm getting more or less the same browns that I would get here. And you can turn the preview on and off just to see, yes, blue eyes to brown eyes, right? Not too bad. So neutralize, no. But you can definitely tweak the rest of these. So obviously I tweaked the color intensity quite a bit, bring down the luminance as well until we get exactly what we're looking for. Okay, I think I've made a brown eye, well, almost anyway. So merge this down, Control E, and this becomes your new eye texture. So I'll just save it out as brown eye versus blue eye. ZBrush likes bitmap files. And let's differentiate this by saying eye brown, txt for textures, .bmp. And you could argue with me that oh yeah, BMP is like the oldest or one of the oldest formats, and so maybe not the best texture format. But ZBrush tends to like BMPs over JPEGs. Not always, but I found over the years that sometimes it doesn't like all JPEGs, so I've just sort of gotten into the habit of using PSD or BMP files. And there we go. Now we have brown eyes. Really wasn't that hard. But yeah, all thanks to the match color algorithm in ZBrush, or match color tool. So hopefully that helps. This will look better, of course, once I turn on the pupil. But that's it. Problem solved.